12 years ago, I stepped out of my first NLP training. What I knew after that training was that NLP was going to be a part of the rest of my life. I didn't know how exactly. I didn't know that I was going to become an NLP coach and an NLP teacher, but I just knew that there was something about NLP. It was kind of like a calling, but this was it. The other thing that I also knew is that I did not know NLP. Most of the people who received their certificate after that first training all my fellow students felt like now they knew NLP and they didn't have to do anything else. I knew differently. What I knew is that you don't just go to a training for 2.5 weeks and suddenly you're a master. I knew that the journey had really begun, and I didn't have a roadmap to how I was going to master NLP, but what I did have was determination that I was going to figure it out. So the truth here is that there isn't really any secrets to this. What I'm going to show you, you sort of already know. I'm just going to help organize it for you and put it into something more concise for you to follow. Ultimately, what you have to do in order to really master NLP is the world needs to become your NLP classroom. And that's when things change. That's when you start stepping into mastery. That's when NLP really becomes you. It's not something you do, it's something you are, something you live. All right, so let's talk about mastering NLP. And Neuro Linguistic Programming is a powerful approach to communication, personal development, and transformation that examines the connection between neurological processes, language, and behavioral patterns. First, we'll cover the essence of NLP, its historical context, key concepts, benefits, and some common misconceptions. Then we're going to get into the quickest way to master it. So what is it? Neurolinguistic programming, also known as NLP, is a methodology that studies how people think, communicate, and behave. It encompasses understanding the structure of experience to change behavior, improve communication effectiveness, and overall to get what you want out of life. I think people lose track of that. That really what you want NLP to do is to help you get more out of life, what you want. NLP was developed in the 1970s by Richard Bandler and John Grinder, who modeled the successful techniques of renowned therapists. Their work aimed to understand and replicate the patterns of excellence observed in effective communicators and agents of change, leading to the establishment of NLP as a distinct field. NLP revolves around several key concepts, such as representational systems, the structure of your experiences rather than the content of your experiences, and your map of reality instead of the territory. These aspects of NLP help you understand how you create meaning so that you can create the kind of meaningful experiences you want. Meaningful experiences create a meaningful life. Keep that in mind. I think people really lose their way when they're trying to learn NLP, and they forget that this is what we're ultimately after. When I say meaningful, I'm not talking about meaningful according to anyone else. Meaningful according to you. What does it for you? What is meaningful to you? And that is part of the journey of NLP, is understanding that. If you don't know how to create that meaningful experience, that building block, chances are you don't know how to create that meaningful life. That means you're just approaching it haphazardly. In other words, when you master NLP, you crack the code on how you're creating your reality, which means you can create the reality you want. Now, this is controversial because it's one of the criticisms about NLP is that, oh, if you go learn NLP, then you get into this idea that you can just sort of make up your reality. And that is not what it's really about. It's not creating some alternate reality that doesn't match up to any sort of accuracy to what we would think of as objective reality. That is not it. And it goes back to what I was saying about creating meaningful experiences. You can have an experience and it's not very meaningful to you. You can take that same experience and by restructuring it, it can become very meaningful to you. That's what I mean by changing your reality. You don't actually have to change that much about your life. You just change the structure of how you're experiencing it. That will change your sense of reality, the meaning you apply to it. You naturally gravitate to more and more meaningful experiences. NLP empowers you to enhance communication skills. And why this is important is that the most common aspect of any person's personality who is successful, and you can define success in any way that you want. The number one commonality among successful people is their ability to communicate. When you're able to communicate what you want clearly, that helps you find it. The more clarity you have about what you want, the more you gravitate to it. And part of getting clear about it is being able to communicate it. The techniques you learn in NLP creates the difference that makes a difference when it comes to your success and the fulfillment you experience when you succeed. I know plenty of people, because I coach a lot of them, who are very successful. They're successful on paper, but they don't feel successful. A lot of them come to me who are experiencing imposter syndrome, very successful. They have the bank account to show it, the great career to show it, the wife, the kids, the big house, and yet they feel like it's not real. They feel like an imposter. So you can have success and you can have what looks like success. And NLP can uncover why this is happening for you. When you understand your values, when you understand a lot of these cognitive processes that you're creating, all it takes is restructuring these things to find greater and greater fulfillment. Some common misconceptions about NLP include the belief that it is merely about manipulation or that it lacks scientific backing. It's not about manipulation. Of course, you can use it for that. Anything that is effective and powerful can be used for negative things. And then the scientific backing part, yes, there have been studies that show NLP is effective. Yes, there have been studies that have shown that NLP didn't have the effect that it was supposed to have. What NLP does, it is a technology that draws on science. It is not a science itself. NLP draws from modeling various outliers of excellence to facilitate genuine change and personal development with an emphasis on results and outcomes. It's not about trying to prove it scientifically. We're not trying to find empirical evidence. What I want to do is I want to look at models that already exist in NLP, go use those models to create the kind of change that I want, because these models are based on people who had achieved some sort of excellence, usually outliers, people who were sort of unique and untouchable. And does it give me the results and the outcomes that I want? Yes or no? If no, then I move on to something else. I can go and test these things for myself. And this is part of the learning process with NLP. You test things, you go and try them out, you experiment. NLP is not the technology of making you feel better about your problems. It's the technology of personal solutions. If you come into NLP because you don't really want to change, you want to just feel better about your problems, NLP is not the right thing for you. When you get into NLP, it's because you are willing to change. Now, there's plenty of people who get into NLP because they want to change other people, and you're really missing the boat if that's all you do with it. If you're not getting into this with the idea that you're actually trying to improve your life and improve yourself by changing, and that you want to stay just the same and you want everybody else to change for you, you want the world to change for you, I don't think anything is the right thing for you. No two NLP journeys are alike. So be very careful when comparing yourself to others. When we get into any sort of thing that we want to learn, we're doing that with other students. There's a tendency to compare ourselves to them. You don't want to do that. No two journeys are alike. They're going to look very, very different because we're very, very different. Get clear about your personal motivations and desired outcomes for learning NLP. This way, you can navigate your individualized learning path more effectively and achieve what you want. If you're going after what other people think is good or what they value, it's going to steer you away from your own path. Understanding your intrinsic motivations, also known as intentions or values, is the first step to mastering NLP. Now, this is something I wish I understood. If I had tapped into this more, I would have moved even that much faster. The more you can understand this, the more you're going to live a very satisfying and fulfilling life. Reflect on what drives you, be it career advancement, personal development, or improved relationships, as this awareness will guide your learning and practice effectively. Defining specific outcomes is essential to measure progress in NLP. Do this within the clarity of the values you want to fulfill through achieving these outcomes. So don't just have outcomes floating out there, and don't just have values floating out there. You want to find the outcomes that you believe are going to fulfill those values. And when you line these up, it will guide the way that you learn. And everything else from that point, and this is another concept you're going to see in NLP, the TOTE, the test, operate, test, exit. So when you know what you want to achieve and you hypothesize that it's going to fulfill your values and your intentions, then you test to see where you are. That would be the first test. And then to operate means to take some sort of action toward that outcome. And then you test again. Did you achieve the outcome? Well, probably not, just after one action. The other question would be, did you move closer to your outcome? If the answer is yes, you're probably moving in the right direction. So you operate again, and then you test again. When you achieve the outcome, then you exit. So one way that I can give you an analogy for that, you're hammering a nail. The idea, the outcome is to get the nail flush with the piece of wood once it's hammered in completely. I look at the nail, put the nail on the wood. That's my first test. Okay. I know where I'm starting and I know where I want to get to. Operate. I'm hammering the nail into the piece of wood. I stop, test. I run my hand over the nail. It's not flush with the wood. So I operate again and then I test again. And then if the nail is flush with the wood, then I exit. I know that might sound overly simple, but it's amazing how when you apply this to what you're doing, especially when you know what you value and you know the outcome that you want, most people are, if they just applied this focus to what they're doing, they would complete the project or complete the outcome. Whereas most people do quit when they're going after something. They just kind of lose track of what they're doing. And this is a great way to help you focus on that. When you make a singular focus, though, and you make the changes that you need to make and you change up your strategy, you will change in that process. And that change will generalize to other areas of your life. For example, I wanted to learn NLP early on for the sake of learning NLP, but my primary outcome was fixing my insurance business. I wanted to focus on that and become a better businessman and make more money. What ended up happening was I learned a lot of things, which eventually led me to many additional benefits, including the discovery of my calling and purpose to be a teacher. And this is the other thing, too. And I'm going to talk about this later about being flexible and adaptable. You may come to the realization that the outcome you're aiming at is not the right outcome for you. What I realized is that my insurance business was making me absolutely miserable, and that really what I needed here was to do something else. At the same time, I was learning more and more about business and I was becoming better at that. What if I apply what I'm learning in business to something that I really enjoy doing? And that's when things really started to change. So it's the process, and you want to just trust that process. Basically, you have to start somewhere. And the more you can single out that focus and go toward that, you're going to see that the benefits you're experiencing will spread out. They will generalize to other areas of your life. Discovering the hierarchy of your goals helps create a clear roadmap. While it's tempting to pursue multiple desires, choosing one or two key areas to focus on initially will facilitate deeper learning and provide clearer direction. A lot of people just jump in NLP and they go at this in a very scattered way rather than having that singular unified direction. Just be very, very careful that you're not scattering yourself. I see a lot of people do this and they end up quitting even learning NLP because they feel like there's just too much to do. They get overwhelmed. For example, there was no fixing my insurance business and there was no fixing my marriage. I needed to change. I needed to do things differently. And when I could see that, then I had the courage to move on. Commitment is essential to master NLP. True commitment is a transformation. How committed are you to learning NLP? It can't just be 90%, 95%. You need full 100% commitment. But here's how you want to think about it. Achieving desired outcomes requires persistence and dedication, as real change does not happen overnight. It is a continuous process of growth and self improvement. Think of committing to learning NLP as a commitment to yourself, a commitment to your life. What else could be more powerful? What else could be more important? Your life is not a dress rehearsal. And this is so common when I see people are waiting, people are preparing. They're not actually living it and doing it. Take on learning NLP as part of a commitment to yourself to live the best life that you possibly can, to maximize your potential. Then NLP becomes just something you're learning as part of a bigger vision. And that makes it a lot easier rather than looking at NLP as this huge mountain you got to climb. The mountain you're going to climb is creating the best possible life that you can have. NLP provides the tools for you to get to the top of that mountain. Navigating the path to mastering NLP involves confronting various challenges like inner resistance and inner conflicts. In NLP, we don't push this away. We don't try to bulldoze over resistance with willpower and self discipline. Instead, we integrate these parts, which makes you more whole. Every part of you is valid. So if you feel resistant parts, objecting parts, parts of you who that wants to procrastinate rather than study NLP and practice NLP, you want to welcome that part. Find its positive intention and incorporate it, integrate it. If you're fighting yourself every step of the way, you're going to probably eventually quit. And if you don't quit and you do get to the top of the mountain, so to speak, it's not going to be very fulfilling because you had to basically defeat part of yourself to do it. That doesn't work very well. Understanding personal challenges is vital for growth. Many practitioners face a lack of clarity of their desired outcomes from NLP. Without clarity about your outcomes, all you're left with is the pain of your challenges. Many people only focused on the problem. They're not focused on solving the problem in the context of what is it they want to achieve. And then beyond that, what is that achievement going to fulfill for them? I think it was Einstein who said, you can't solve a problem at the same level in which the problem is being created. So you need to expand around that. Identifying these pain points in the context of your desired outcomes is not a setback. It's an opportunity. When you encounter these challenges, instead of thinking, oh, this is derailing my progress, no, This is part of your progress. This is part of doing it. The challenges are actual real opportunities. Become an NLP master without having to had overcoming any challenges, I would really question if you're an NLP master. A big part of it is overcoming these challenges. Remember that uncertainty is part of learning, as long as the thing that you're doing, the action you're taking, is not life threatening and it won't wipe out your bank account. Go ahead and take that step. It's a little scary, but go for it. You will feel overwhelmed by the vastness of the technology of NLP. There's a lot to learn. Establishing a structured learning plan and prioritizing key concepts can reduce anxiety and enhance clarity. When you lack confidence and clarity, allow your commitment and determination to take over. This is so important. There will be times when you won't feel very confident about something you thought you knew. And there will be times where you won't be very clear about what's in front of you. Maybe you won't be very clear about what you want. That's when you allow your commitment and your determination to take over. You've already set the direction, you've committed to it, follow through with that. The confidence will come and the clarity will also come. Having a network for practice is crucial. Collaboration with peers encourages skill, application, and feedback essential for mastering NLP. Before I even took my first NLP training, I was trying to learn NLP from books, which if you've ever tried that, you know how difficult that is. So I went ahead and just started an NLP practice group and people started showing up. And so now I could practice the techniques that I was learning in the books with actual people. We all started collaborating. This was actually the beginning of my business. So this sort of collaborative group eventually became the business that I now have because eventually I started getting better and better. And then I started teaching. So consider joining NLP groups or online forums to connect with like-minded individuals. What do I recommend? Pretty much everything that I'm teaching you here, I created it based on a 24-day training from that Steve and Connie Ray Andreas created. Steve Andreas, if you don't know, was my mentor. He's now passed on. When I saw their training, I realized that they really put everything possible in it. I didn't see a 24-day NLP training existing anywhere. So I wanted to create it. So I took their training manual with their blessing, of course, and I taught it live, but I also turned it into an online training. And with this online training, you get a community of people just like you who are practicing. You have coaches in there, you have mentors, you have people who I've personally trained in that group. And if you go to the description of this video, you will see the link for that. So go ahead and check it out. We made it ridiculously inexpensive. If you're looking for all of the stuff that I'm talking about here, we've put it all together for you. The extensive technology of NLP can lead to information saturation. You might already be realizing, oh my God, there's so much stuff. Where do I go? Focusing on a few foundational models at a time, like the meta model and Milton model, and applying NLP techniques consistently can prevent becoming overwhelmed and promote effective learning. And a lot of times people just gloss over them, especially the meta model. The meta model is one of the most important ones. It was the first NLP model ever created, even before NLP had the name NLP. And it really holds the keys to the entirety of NLP. When you really go deep with the meta model, it's really the DNA of what NLP is. Not only that, it's the DNA of how you create your experiences. Focus on learning models in NLP. Stay the course as you learn and adapt. Accept that it will be difficult and frustrating at times. I didn't even have the tools that I'm providing you here. When I first started on YouTube, even there wasn't that much NLP out there. Trust me, you have a lot easier path in front of you than what I had. And I love that. Like, this is part of my calling as being a teacher. I want to teach that to as many people who will value it, as many people who will find it useful and be able to solve problems and relieve their stress and frustration. I, as much as possible, have created the process that you can just follow. Just trust that if you're focused, you know where you want to go, and you're practicing consistently, it will happen for you. Recognize your progress and embrace the learning curve as part of your development. Discomfort is often a symptom of growth and development. Anytime you experience discomfort while you're learning and while you're training, that's a sign that you're probably doing it right. Don't pull away from that. A lot of people do. So make sure you're acknowledging your progress as you go, and that will continue to motivate you. Mastering NLP requires a strategic approach that focuses on essential outcomes while integrating techniques seamlessly into everyday life. By committing to consistent practice and viewing mistakes as learning opportunities, you can cultivate a strong foundation in neurolinguistic programming. Eventually, NLP becomes part of you, just like a language. When you first heard your native language, it just sounded like a bunch of weird sounds. You didn't know that that was communication or that it had such strong connections and precise communication. And then a few years later, you're doing that naturally. You're not even thinking about it. It just happens. It flows. NLP is the same. It will happen for you that way if you stay consistent with it. The more you take on a mindset of experimentation and flexibility, the faster you will master NLP. Some people get so serious and focused about learning NLP, it becomes a very academic thing, like they want to pass a test. That's not the approach you want to take. When they were creating NLP, it was all about experimentation, not taking anything for granted. And that was what created it. When you go to learn NLP, the best way to approach it is with that same mindset. At the same time, remember to have fun when you practice. Be playful. This is crucial as well. Everybody acknowledges that children learn really fast. How do they learn so fast? They play. And to watch a child not care if they make mistakes and just play, they learn so rapidly. You can see it happening. There's no reason why you shouldn't do the same thing with NLP. Just have fun with it. When you are playful with it and you enjoy it, you're going to be motivated to practice more and more and more because it's fun, right? But if you make it something more serious and very strict about it, it's going to feel like all the stuff that you don't want to do. And so that's why a lot of people procrastinate on it. So make it fun. Approaching NLP as a comprehensive model shifts the focus from more technique acquisition to understanding broader principles that shape reality. This is a big problem that I noticed early on, and I gave it a name, called it technique-itis. Bruce Lee once said, I don't fear the man who knows 10,000 different kicks. I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. You want to take NLP as a comprehensive model. It's about a model of reality. The techniques are supportive of that model. And you really learn the model. It's hard to learn the model directly. I mean, you can learn it in sort of an intellectual sense, but how you really learn the model is by experiencing the techniques. That means practicing the same technique over and over again until you have it as part of you. You don't have to think out the process every single time. After a while, it just becomes how you communicate with people. And you'll get to the point where you can just have normal everyday conversations with people and actually you're using a process to move them to a better place, which is an amazing experience. This perspective aids in internalizing NLP processes so that they become intuitive, similar to speaking your native language. Effective NLP mastery involves weaving techniques into daily routines. Practicing NLP during everyday interactions sharpens skills and helps you respond naturally, reinforcing the application of learned concepts in real life scenarios. This is one of the more difficult ones because we're so often in autopilot all day long, even when we're meeting people. And so to break that autopilot and remember to include NLP in everything that you're doing, it's a little difficult because we have to kind of snap out of that trance of autopilot, but it can be done. And the more you do this, the more you make it a habit. So don't just do NLP when you practice it. Make it a part of everything you do. Be creative and use your imagination. Mistakes are invaluable in the learning process of NLP. Viewing errors as chances for growth encourages experimentation and resilience, enabling you to refine your skills while supporting a more flexible learning journey. Embrace the mistakes. You're going to learn more from making mistakes than from getting it right. If you make a mistake and then you realize what happened and you correct it, you're going to have learned so much more from that than if you just got it right accidentally. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. And that's Marcus Aurelius, one of the emperors of Rome, who was the first Stoic Roman emperor. The obstacle becomes the way. Being a part of an ongoing, robust support network is a missing piece to the journey of mastering NLP for most people. I think this is one of the reasons why most people quit before they really learn NLP. Mentors, communities, and an organizational structure provide guidance, encouragement, and connection, transforming your learning journey into a collaborative experience. I assure you, if you're trying to learn NLP and you don't have this sense of community and support, like you're learning NLP as a collaborative experience, it just makes things unnecessarily difficult and lonely. This is available to you. Mentors and coaches help you gain insights and feedback on your NLP journey. Their experience can help clarify your goals, offer tailored strategies, and hold you accountable. You get access to more opportunities to practice and with a diversity of personalities. I do recommend having a practice partner who you practice with weekly. You don't want to get stuck practicing with only one person because we're all different. There are so many different personalities out there, and you want to experience NLP working with different personalities. These shared experiences with people on the same level as you, combined with teachers and mentors who are further along on the journey, makes you feel supported and motivated to continue your journey to mastery. Can't tell you how inspiring it is when you see someone who's ahead of you who's also supporting you and giving you nuggets of wisdom while you're also practicing with people who are on your level. It's the full picture. Sharing insights, discussing challenges, and exchanging feedback creates a collaborative journey rather than a lonely journey. The more you can connect with people, you will learn this so much faster and it'll be so much more enjoyable. Set yourself up for success by putting yourself in an environment that motivates and inspires continued growth. Just make sure that the source of information is real NLP. With no unified regulation over the field of neurolinguistic programming, this can be more difficult than you may think. Just because a training is called NLP does not mean that it actually is. I've been to so many conferences where people were selling their NLP training, and the whole time I'm sitting there thinking to myself, okay, these people don't actually know what real NLP is. They just basically regurgitate and parrot what their teacher said. And this doesn't really help people. This is not passing on NLP in a way that it was meant to be passed on. Also, a lot of teachers, they take a lot of liberties. Maybe they at one time had learned real NLP and became good at it. Then they started making up their own stuff, which doesn't really adhere to the NLP principles, or they just started incorporating other types of very popular things like law of attraction or law of assumption to attract more students to them. And so the idea is, oh, I'm going to combine law of attraction with NLP, which really doesn't work. So they put that together to get different segments, different demographics of students to show up to their training so they can make more money. It's a business. There's nothing wrong with having an NLP business, obviously. There's nothing wrong with making money. But I have a commitment to the craft of NLP that is unwavering. I'm not going to bend from that just to get more people in. I think the purity of NLP, if you really focus on what it actually is, this structure over content approach, you don't need that other stuff. And I'm not saying that there isn't other good models out there. There absolutely is. And sometimes there's a good place to combine these two. I think Stoic philosophy fits really well with NLP. But I am not going to teach an NLP program and call it NLP and really be teaching Stoicism. I think that's wrong. I think that's a misrepresentation. If I saw a really good connection there and telling you, okay, here's NLP and here's Stoicism and here's how it works, that's a completely different thing. I'm not saying don't do that. Feel free to practice other things, but it's really important if you want to get the most out of NLP to know what NLP is and what it is not, so that when you come face to face with other teachings or even books, you know when it's real NLP and when it's not. Embrace a growth mindset and a mindset of resilience in the face of challenges. Combine that with a willingness to learn from failures and an ongoing commitment to personal and professional development, and you will pave the road to NLP mastery. So here's some bit of a checklist here. Acknowledge the roadblocks. Do not pretend like they're not there. The obstacle is the way. Going through the roadblock, that is part of what NLP is all about. And that makes you better and better at it. Revisit the basics. I took the practitioner training 3 times with 3 different teachers. I didn't care about the certificate. I wanted to learn and I wanted to have a sense of multidimensional understanding of NLP. And I thought the only way I'm really going to get that is by going to different teachers. It exposed some of these teachers were taking liberties and helped me understand what was NLP and what was not NLP. So keep coming back to the basics. The mastery is in mastering the basics. Seek guidance. There was a kind of a dark period or a plateau that I went through where I had been to a lot of NLP trainings. And the teachers, I would ask them a lot of questions and they would answer it while we were at the training. Between trainings, if I wasn't paying them, they weren't giving me much guidance. And I got really lucky when I ran into Steve Andreas and he offered to help me. That guidance was so crucial to my journey. So make sure that you're seeking guidance. You cannot just read NLP books. You cannot just watch videos. You have to take these processes, you have to apply them, experiment, try new ways of doing it, reflect and adapt. I journal. I love journaling. I think that is a practice in my life that has done so much for me. One of the things I had when I finished my first practitioner training, everything that I tried, I had a journal and I wrote it all down. And so I was able to reflect back on the things that I was trying. And some days nothing happened. I tried this process. I did it with several people and I got nothing out of it. Sometimes that was my journal. And then what do I do now? What do I do differently now that I understand that? And that's where you start adapting. Journal is a great way to do that. It's not the only way, but that was the way that I used to really reflect and adapt. You're going to continue to learn and continue to grow. And this is why I've always shied away from certifications. We're starting to do them now because people are asking for them. So I'm making sure that when we do a certification, that we're really testing people, because most institutes do not test. They hand them a certificate for showing up. And sometimes you don't even have to show up. They'll hand your certificate just because you paid your money. When I stepped out on that last day of training and I got my certification, I returned the following year for the master practitioner training. And about 70% of the students who went through practitioner training with me showed up for the master practitioner. And after a few days, they started coming up to me and saying, "Why are you so much better than the rest of us at NLP? We got the same certification that you did." I said, "Did you practice? Did you practice at all over the entire year since you got that certificate?" Every single one of them said no. And I was like, well, there's your answer. There's no secret here. If you don't practice, you're not going to become good at this. A certification means nothing. Your certification is how skilled you are. That's your only real certification. And last but not least, be happy and enjoy the process. I tortured myself so many times unnecessarily when it came to learning almost anything. Thankfully, NLP was something I always really enjoyed. And so most of the time, I really enjoyed it every step of the way of learning it. However, there were a few times where I got too serious and thought maybe this isn't really working or maybe I need to go do something else. Always what got me back on track was relax, just enjoy it. And that's really all you have to do. If you're interested in the training that I've created, supported by my team, who is absolutely amazing. The community is amazing. You put your questions in the community, you get them answered. I'm there, I'm active, I will answer your questions. And you also just get a variety of answers from different students, different coaches. And it's in that variety where really the true wisdom is. So check out that program. If you're serious about learning NLP, it's an incredible first place to start. Like I said, it's based on a 24-day training. If you're thinking about doing an NLP training and you go, oh, that's kind of long, but over here, I can go get a certificate for 3 days of training. Ask yourself seriously, do you really think you're going to learn in 3 days what would take at least 24 days to learn? No, there is no way you can be an NLP practitioner in 3 days. I would argue and debate anybody on that. It's just not possible. That's just a money-making scheme. If you like this video on mastering NLP, you'll love this next video on the history of NLP.